Now that we know the correct date, why do we still persist in doing 2 days? So if you look at this sentence carefully, it's really saying 2 things. One is, that should have been enough, right? Keep the minhag. This is the minhag, keep the minhag. And then it continues, sometimes it may happen that historical circumstances may create a situation where we no longer know the date. So which is it? Is it persevering in the minhag, regardless of what historical circumstances may hold for us in the future? Or is there a chashash of historical circumstances? In other words, saying hizaru b'minhag v'techem b'yadechem and stopping there would have indicated that it's a question of minhag. But once I say dilma yachzor davar b'kil kulo, it sounds like there was a chashash, there was some sort of contingency that chachamim were afraid of, and they made a gzeira to hold yomtovsheni galuyot. So the question really is, yomtovsheni galuyot bizman hazeh, is it, quote unquote, was it only a minhag? I say quote unquote because I can't stand that phrase, only a minhag, and we'll talk about that also. Okay, is it a midin minhag, or it may have started as a minhag, right? But chachamim at some stage formalized it, and they said, even though the reason for the minhag no longer applies, we're making gzeira that in Chutz La'aretz there's 2 days Yontif. Okay? Now this, I think, is a machloket between the Rambam and the Ritva. Okay? If you look in the Rambam, in Hilchot Kiddush HaChodesh, where he talks about these halachot, so he says, second, Perek Hey, Halacha Dalet, in Hilchot Kiddush HaChodesh. Kish Haita Sanhedrin Kayemet, when the Sanhedrin was around, Vehein Kovin ala Re'iyah, and they determined the month according to the testimony of the witnesses. Hayu b'nei Eretz Yisrael v'chol ha'mekomot shemagim eleihem shluchei Tishrei, all those who lived in Eretz Yisrael and those who lived within proximity of Eretz Yisrael, that the shluchim of Tishrei would reach them on time. Osim yamim tovim yom echad bilvad. They would hold 1 day yontif. V'shar mekomot, and other places, harichokot, which are further away, she'ein shluchei Tishrei magin aleihem, that the messengers of Tishrei would not be able to reach them in time to know when the correct day was. Hayosim shnei yamim misafek. They would do 2 days misafek. Lefisha lo hayu yodim yom shekav'u bo b'nei Eretz Yisrael lechodesh, because they wouldn't know what the day of Rosh Chodesh was. Okay. Bizman hazeh, the Rambam continues, she'ein sham Sanhedrin ubeitin shel Eretz Yisrael kovin al cheshbon zeh. So today we don't do it according to the witnesses. We do it according to the cheshbon. Hayamin adin. So therefore, what should be shayu b'chol hamikomot shosim yom tov echad bilvad afilu hamikot harechokot shebechutz la'aretz kamo b'nei Eretz Yisrael. So according to logic would dictate that the whole world should hold 1 day. There's no sfeika diyoma anymore. Shakol al cheshbon echad somchim v'kovim, because we all rely on the calendar. Aval takanat chachamim he plays the game. It's a takana of chachamim, meaning it's legislated. Shizaharu b'minhag avoteihem shebideihem, that they should maintain the minhag. Let's go figure it out. Okay, he plays the same game that the Gemara is playing. Okay, he doesn't want to take a stance on that. Okay, but let's see. Lefichach, therefore, kol makom shelo hayu shluchei Tishrei magiyim elav, any place where the shluchim of Tishrei would not reach in time, kisha hayu hashluchim yotzim, when in the days when the shluchim would go, Ya'asu shnei yamim. They do 2 days. V'afilu b'zman hazeh, even today. Whereas if there's a place where the shluchim weren't magia, then today in that place you hold 2 days. The way they used to do then. ובני ארץ ישראל בזמן הזה עושים יום אחד כמנהגם שמעולם. And בני ארץ ישראל do 1 day, as was their custom. שמעולם לא עשו 2 ימים. Because in Eretz Yisrael they never do 2 days יונטף. נמצא yomtovsheni שאנו עושים בגלויות בזמן הזה. So it turns out that yomtovsheni שגלויות that we do today, מדברי סופרים שתקנו דבר זה. So it's מדברי סופרים, they made a takana. Okay. I'm skipping halacha zayim, then he talks about Rosh Hashanah. Then he says, halacha tet. Ein asiyat yom tov echad tluya b'krevat hamakom. It does not depend on the physical distance to Yerushalayim. Which is surprising. Until now we just thought, didn't he just say that it depends where the shluchim arrive? So it depends how far away you are from Yerushalayim, right? So now he's going to clarify that. It doesn't depend on the proximity to Yerushalayim. Ketzad. Im yem makom beino ven Yerushalayim alach chamisha yamim o pachot. Let's say you're in an area which is 5 days or less walk from Yerushalayim. Shebevadai efshar sheyagiu lahem hashluchim. And certainly shluchim could get to there in time. Ein omrim shanshem makom zeh osim yom tov echad. You don't say that the people that live here do 1 day. But the shluchim could have come here, right? But no. Why? Shemi yomar lanu shahashluchim yotzim lemakom zeh. It doesn't depend on the proximity. It depends on whether historically the shluchim actually came to this particular place. Shema lo ayu hashluchim yotzim lemakom zeh. Maybe the shluchim didn't come to this place. Mipnei shelo ayu sham Yisrael. So maybe in Efrat, or Givat HaMiftar, or Migdal Oz, you have to hold 2 days. The shluchim went to Beit Lechem, probably, right? But I don't know if anybody lived here. So the truth is there are some archaeological remains in, around Bat Ayin, and maybe yes, maybe no. But then you'd have to see. Okay? Did people actually live here or not? So he says if they didn't actually live here, they have to hold 2 days. Shema lo ayu shluchim yotzim lemakom zeh mipnei shelo ayu sham Yisrael. V'achar shechazru likbo al hacheshbon yashvu sham Yisraelim. And maybe afterwards, Jews came. Sheim chayavim lasot shnei yamim. So Jews that settled, in a sense, this is where the Zionist ideal actually finds itself in a quandary, right? Because the quote-unquote the Zionist psak is you should hold 1 day. But if you're a real Zionist according to the Rambam, you say any new places, the idea would be that Eretz Yisrael would fill up with so many new yeshuvim that almost all of Eretz Yisrael should be chayav in 2 days yontif. And only in Yerushalayim and in Yafo and in Lud, right, places we know, or in Tveria, they never hold 1 day. But all these new yeshuvim, where Jews didn't live before, have to hold 2 days. And that would be the Zionist ideal, right? But anyway, we're not going to get into politics. So, the Rambam then flips it the other direction as well. Ve'ilu haya davar talui b'krevat hamakom. If it was just dependent upon proximity, hayu kol b'nei Mitzrayim osim yom echad. In Egypt, they would also hold 1 day. Sharei efshar sheyagiu lahem shluchei Tishrei. She'ein ben Yerushalayim Mitzrayim al derech Ashkelon. It's only 8 days, and so too Rov Surya. Halamata she'ein davar talui biyot hamakom karov. Nimtza ikar davar zel derech zo kachu. So now he's summing up, and it's very important to grasp this. Kol makom sheyesh ben oven Yerushalayim malach yoter l'asara yamim. Any place which is more than a 10 days journey from Yerushalayim. Osim shnei yamim le'olam kimin hagami kodem. Right? Make a radius more than 10 days. It was always 2 days yantif. She'ein shluchei kol tishrei v'tishrei magi'im el makom sheben Yerushalayim malach asara yamim o pachot. Because the shluchim never got there. You can know that. Now, V'chol makom shebeino uvein Yerushalayim mahalach 10 yamim b'shaveh o pachot. But if it's 10 days or less, she'efshar shashluchim magiim elav. Maybe, you don't know, maybe the shluchim came there or not. Ro'im im oto makom eretz Yisrael shayu ba Yisrael b'shat ha're'iyah b'kibush sheni. So now we have to figure out, if it's a place where Jews lived in the time of Bayit Sheni, Kigon, Usho, Shfar'am, V'Lud, V'Yavne, etc., V'Kayotzei Behem, Osim Yom Echad Bilvad. V'Im Oto Makom Misuria, but if it was within 10 days, but it's Chutz La'aretz, well, Surya is sort of in between, but anyway, Makom Surya, Kigon, Tzur, V'Damesek, V'Ashkelon, different Ashkelon, V'Kayotzei Behem, O Michutz La'aretz, Kigon, Mitzrayim, V'Amon U'Mav, V'Kayotzei Behem. Listen to this. What do they do? What would you say?
It's within 10 days.
If it's within 10 days, but it's chutz la'aretz.
1 day.
So he says, no. Osim ki minhag avoteim b'yadeim. Then you follow the minhag. Maybe the minhag in Tzur or Tzidon or Damesek is 1 day. So then they can do 1 day. Right? But if the minhag is 2 days, they do 2 days. Right? Im yom echad, im shnei yamim, shnei yamim. Okay? So the Rambam holds that yomtovsheni galuyot, even though it's called yomtovsheni galuyot, is a misleading. It's a misleading title of what we're talking about, because it doesn't depend on Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz. It depends on where the shlichim actually arrived. So theoretically, in Eretz Yisrael, you could have a place where you chayev in 2 days. And you could have in Chutz La'aretz places which are close to Eretz Yisrael, where maybe the shluchim actually did arrive. Maybe shluchim did arrive to Rabat Ammon. Maybe they did go to the Golan, right? So then you could have places in Chutz La'aretz which hold 1 day. Okay? If you don't know, then you go according to the Rov. Right? So according to the Rambam, the borders, in a sense, then the din of Eretz Yisrael, there is no din of Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz. There is no makom gorein in the way that, say, the Chacham Tzvi talked about it. Okay? It depends on the historical reality. Okay? As opposed to this, we have the Ritvan Rosh Hashanah. The Ritvan Rosh Hashanah asks, yeah.
In Halachi Beto, it seems to imply that they don't have a Chutz La'aretz. Does it have a minhag at all?
No, if it's a place where they don't have a minhag.
Anybody specifies Surya or Chutz La'aretz?
Right, so if you're placed in Chutz La'aretz and they don't have a minhag there, right, but it's close enough, so then you go, you hold 2 days, because Rov of Chutz La'aretz is 2 days, if you don't have a minhag. Right, that's what he is. Doesn't mean he's not saying that in Chutz La'aretz there is no minhag. If it's Chutz La'aretz and it's a place that doesn't have a minhag. Okay, so the Ritva asks, this is in Rosh Hashanah, it's on the first side here. Shouldn't it depend on where the shluchim came, and why do we talk about yomtovsheni galuyot? Right. So he says that. Here it is. 1 second. He says, Klomar. Sha'anu, like Bizman has that, right? Ki'ilu ein anu yodim klal. Right? Shehem ra'u, shekach yafeh lanu, v'kach takanatenu. Nimtza she'eno minhag bilvad, ele chiyuv kivat chila, ve'eno kiminhag arava she'en mivarchim alav. It's not like there's some minhagim you don't make a bracha because you can't say Asher Kishon.